Hey, Stay Sharp community. I'm making so many videos today because I'm just loving helping everyone get unstuck and think differently beyond 2020. It's the year that, the world changes and we're doing things a little bit differently. But I wanted to just show you some of the ways that I do some research when it comes to keywords. And I was reading a growth hacking blog, and it reminded me of some of the tools that I haven't used in a while. So I wanted to make this quick video. I'm going to use the example of regenerative agriculture because Farming Secrets, one of the businesses I run, this is a keyword for us and I understand it. So one of the first things I do, obviously, I go to Google and I see what are the trends that are happening, what are people paying ads for, what are some of the videos that are coming up when it comes to regenerative agriculture. Love seeing the fact that Happen Films is here. I don't know if this is skewed to my results, probably is, because I watch a lot of their films and also volunteer some of my marketing advice to them. But I take a look of what is trending, books that are related, some of the keywords that are coming up from there. But what I really like to do here is use Google's algorithms to my best advantage. So if I was going to write an article about regenerative agriculture, I look at the suggested drop down. So people are looking for statistics, PDFs, examples, criticism, courses, certification, Agriculture Australia. This is interesting, 5 principles of regenerative agriculture. So if that's something that someone's writing about, like Googling, that's the top suggested things. That could be a blog article, the 5 tips, the 5 principles of regenerative agriculture. But also getting keywords, obviously people looking for certification. You could write an article whether you feel like a certification is a good thing or a bad thing. In my opinion, it's probably a bad thing because there'll be a lot of people who get certified but don't necessarily practice it. So talk about your opinion, talk about your thoughts on the matter. So that's one place I look to. Free, no paid apps, nothing, no shiny objects. The other thing I do is I look at the bottom of Google because they give you related searches. Now, a lot of these will be similar to up the top, but what I like to do is what I call go down the rabbit hole. So then I might say, I'm really interested in these 5 principles of regen ag. Let me click on that. And so now I'm getting some more information about that. And then I can see that there's some tips that are coming up. So what are the regenerative agricultural practices? What is regenerative agriculture in farming? So I can just look at some keywords and so forth. And so what I've noticed here now is that Google is linking agriculture and farming together. So that's just something I'm going to put in my mind for in a minute. But then I go down to the bottom and I look at again, regenerative agriculture framework, articles. Here's that word criticism again. Agriculture examples. Now all of a sudden examples has gotten me interested. I'll look at this. There's a whole list of some of the examples of what you can do that are known as regenerative article. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blog articles if you wanted to write a topic on each one of those things. How perennial crops help regenerative agriculture, how animal integration helps, regenerative agriculture. So, and there's even more on this blog article. And I just keep looking and looking and keep going down the rabbit hole. So that's just another thing that I like doing as well, and looking at the tips, what comes up as little snippets. That's feedback to what Google already knows is common human psychology. I sometimes even go look at images and see what type of imagery comes up for the keywords. That would give me examples for images to use on blog articles, or sometimes I look at this, and this is a real life example, is people will tag things as regenerative agriculture, but it's absolutely nothing to do with regenerative agriculture. It's bare soil, there's no cover cropping. This image here is the most overused image in the world, and it has nothing to do with regenerative agriculture. Not that particular one, but people holding soil, and bare soil in regenerative agriculture is wrong. So that's one thing I do. The other thing I do is I use Google Trends, and so I look at trends. And so what I'm trying to do here is make correlation between regenerative agriculture and organic agriculture. And on a surface, I like the fact. Now I look at worldwide data for the past 5 years, and I can see that regenerative agriculture is 100% on the incline since 2019. If I remove organic agriculture, just because I want to see, you would think that would remove it, but it didn't. using these trend lines can be really cool to just see the data and zoom in, and also seeing which parts of the world are searching for certain keywords and so forth. But as I mentioned before, I wanted to see the difference between agriculture and farming. And so when we look at these two keywords, what I've done here is opened up another tab, and I've used organic farming and regenerative farming. And what I can see here straight away is that people don't refer to regenerative farming as a keyword. And I think there's something to say in that. That gives me an idea of an article to say the difference between farming and agriculture. Now, farming is a process of doing something to get a yield. Agriculture goes much deeper. It looks at all of the ecosystems working together. And so agriculture is much more of a blanket way of all the systems working together, and regenerative definitely needs to be that bigger picture thinking, where farming is a bit more small scale. It's like, what are you doing on the farm? Inputs out, outputs out, inputs in, outputs out, and it's the word farming doesn't really correlate to the users when it comes to regenerative farming. So this is just like really interesting to see the data and just make kind of comparing stuff like that. Now, the tool that I'd forgotten about is called BuzzSumo. Now, what BuzzSumo does is you can type in a keyword or a website or something, and it goes and looks at the buzz that's happening on the internet. And this is really gives you a bit of a signal of how shareable is the content. So Joe Rogan's experience with Joel Salatin has been shared on Facebook 21,000 times. That means that its total engagement is 23,000 people. That's highly engaging content. So an idea would be maybe to write an article about Joel Salatin, or reach out to him and interview him on your podcast. But it's just really interesting. Another one that's quite high now is Indigenous regenerative land management. Last week, we ran a webinar with Yarn Australia and talking about, bringing in more Indigenous awareness to land management and being an observer of the land and going back to basics on many principles. So this gives you an idea of like some of the content and grabbing buzz keywords, hence the name BuzzSumo, to build into your article, to add into your subject line. So there are a couple of the ways that I look at data, and when I'm interested in a new sector or business or an industry, this is kind of some of the top level free tools that I use to get a bit of an understanding and get a finger on the pulse of how that industry ticks. Now, while I know a lot of people are moving away from Google, they are still one of the biggest search engines, and they've got a lot of data, and they know human patterns and psychology. So we have to kind of use the tools that we've got in order to make decisions. So hopefully that gives you some tips. If there are some keywords that you're wanting to explore, I encourage you to go down the Google related keywords and suggested drop down rabbit hole. It can be quite fun, and it can open up some additional way of thinking. And remember, you don't have to agree with what you see there. You might want to disagree with it, but you want to use those keywords because that's what people are already looking for. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, excellent. Hopefully, I know you'll get a lot out of this video, and I can't wait for you to share some of the things that you do with some of these free tools that are readily available online. So until next time, stay sharp.